In a world where it's easy to get lost in the routine of everyday life, there are moments that stand out, moments that make us question everything we thought we knew about fairness, ethics, and the choices we make when we're pushed to the edge. The story I'm about to tell you is one of those moments. It's a story of perseverance, courage, and, most importantly, the power of integrity in a world that sometimes rewards deceit and discourages doing what's right. Meet Sophia, a young woman who, for nearly 3 years, had worked tirelessly at the Sunrise Diner. It wasn't a glamorous job. It wasn't one that made headlines. It wasn't the kind of job that would make you rich or famous. But for Sophia, it was everything. It was the lifeline that helped her get by, the place where she could put in long hours and support her family even when she didn't have the energy to do so. It was more than just a diner, it was a second home, a place where she had created connections with customers and coworkers alike. But as the saying goes, every rose has its thorn, and as much as the Sunrise Diner was a second home to Sophia, it was also a place where harsh realities lurked just beneath the surface. The workers were overworked and underappreciated, with management that seemed to have no interest in the well-being of its staff. On top of that, a toxic culture had crept into the diner. Favoritism, discrimination, and unjust treatment were just the norm, and Sophia, despite her kindness and work ethic, often found herself trapped in this web of negativity. For a while, she kept her head down, knowing that speaking up could cost her job. But it was this very silence that enabled the problem to persist. The employees who received special treatment, whether they were lazy, rude, or simply favored by management, had learned that they could act with impunity. On the other hand, Sophia, who did her job with diligence and respect, found herself facing more and more resistance and even disdain. In this toxic environment, Sophia was a rare gem, someone who still believed in the principles of hard work and fairness. She didn't play favorites, she didn't discriminate. She treated everyone with respect, regardless of their background or what they could offer her in return. But here's the catch, the world isn't always kind to people like that. Often, the ones who work the hardest, who stand up for what's right, find themselves trampled by those who care more about themselves than others. That's where this story begins. A quiet Wednesday evening, nothing out of the ordinary at first. A diner on the edge of town, an unassuming waitress with a strong sense of right and wrong, and a customer who, at first glance, seemed like just another diner guest. But the truth was far from simple. This was no ordinary customer. He would not only change the course of Sophia's life, but he would also reveal something about the Sunrise Diner that Sophia couldn't ignore. This wasn't just about serving a customer, it was about serving her integrity. The first hint of trouble. As a waitress, Sophia had seen all kinds of people. The regulars who came in for coffee, the truckers who grabbed a quick bite between long shifts, and the families who came to share a meal and a few laughs. But this man, this customer, was different. At first, he appeared like just another diner guest. His clothes were simple, nothing flashy. He had the look of someone who had been through a lot but wasn't ready to show it. There was something in the air when he walked in, though, a certain weight, an unspoken understanding between him and Sophia. The atmosphere in the diner changed the moment he sat down. It was like the calm before a storm. Sophia noticed it immediately. The way the others reacted when he walked and told her everything. Emma, the senior waitress, didn't even glance up from her phone. Alex, the new server, stopped mid-sentence and averted his eyes, clearly uncomfortable. Sophia had seen this before when the diner's unspoken rules of who to treat well and who to ignore came into play. This was no accident. Sophia was familiar with the behavior of her coworkers. Emma was the queen bee who treated some customers like royalty and others like they were invisible. Alex, on the other hand, was a bit of a coward, avoiding tables that he deemed undeserving of good service. The way Sophia treated everyone the same, no matter their appearance, was a rarity in this environment. But tonight, something was different. Tonight, her values were about to be tested in the hardest way possible. Standing up for what's right, the unseen cost. When Sophia approached the man to take his order, she noticed a slight hesitation in his step, as though he too had already sensed the change in the air. He wasn't greeted with warmth by Emma or Alex, nor did he receive the usual fake smiles from the regulars. But when he looked up at Sophia, there was a flicker of something in his eyes, something that made her heart race. Was it gratitude? Was it hope? As she took his order, Sophia couldn't help but feel that this was no ordinary interaction. There was something about this moment that stood out, something that would stick with her for the rest of her life. Little did she know she was about to face a dilemma that would challenge her beliefs and force her to make a choice that would change everything. Later that night, as the diner's slow hours dragged on, Sophia found herself in a conversation with her manager, Mark, about the man she had served. Mark had received a complaint, though it wasn't a complaint about the service, it was more about the fact that Sophia had treated this man the same way she treated everyone else. There was a silent tension in the air as Mark took Sophia aside to speak with her. The problem wasn't the customer, it was Sophia's failure to follow the unspoken rules of the diner. Mark didn't see a loyal, hardworking employee, he saw someone who was disrupting the status quo. Sophia was about to learn the harsh lesson that doing the right thing sometimes comes with a heavy price. The next words from Mark's mouth would change her life, building suspense and creating a strong hook. At this point, the tension between what is right and what is easy becomes palpable. Sophia, who had spent 3 years trying to stay under the radar, doing her job without stirring up trouble, was now in the middle of a situation that demanded a response. The choice between doing what was expected of her and standing up for what she believed was right hung heavy in the air. The question on the audience's mind is clear: will Sophia back down, or will she take a stand for her integrity regardless of the consequences? And when she chooses to stand her ground, the unexpected happens. Her life takes a dramatic turn and the diner will never be the same again. In the next chapters of this story, the revelation of the man's true identity and his surprising connection to Sophia's fate will take center stage. This isn't just about a waitress serving a customer, it's about the power of integrity in a world where doing the right thing often feels like the hardest choice. And soon, Sophia will realize that sometimes the biggest battles in life are fought when we stand up for the values that define us. As Sophia left the cramped office of her manager Mark, her hands clenched into fists and her heart pounded in her chest. She had just been fired. Fired for doing the right thing. For treating a customer with the respect and dignity that every person deserved, no matter how they looked or what they could offer. The weight of the decision hung heavily in the air, but Sophia wasn't going to let it break her. She couldn't. For the past 3 years, she had worked tirelessly at Sunrise Diner, putting up with rude customers, low wages, and unfair treatment. But through it all, she had held on to one thing: her integrity. It was the one thing that couldn't be taken from her, no matter how bad things got. So, while the humiliation of being fired stung, it also ignited something inside her. Something fierce. Something that would not allow her to give up. As she walked out the back door of the diner and into the cool night air, the reality of the situation began to sink in. No job. No paycheck. No backup plan. The weight of it all felt suffocating. She gripped the steering wheel tightly as she climbed into her car, her thoughts spinning in a whirlwind of worry. How was she going to pay her rent? How could she help Liam with his college expenses now that she didn't have a job? And just when it seemed like all hope was lost, her phone rang. The phone call, a turning point. Sophia didn't recognize the number, but she answered anyway. Her voice was shaky as she said, "Hello?" A calm, steady voice answered on the other end. "Sophia, this is Daniel Carter. The man you served last night at Sunrise Diner." Sophia froze. Her mind raced. She recognized his name immediately, but she couldn't understand why he was calling her. What could he want after everything that had happened? "I've heard about what happened," Daniel continued, his voice firm but compassionate. "And I need to talk to you about something important." Sophia's stomach twisted with unease, but also curiosity. Her heart began to race again. What was he going to say? Was he just another well-meaning person trying to offer sympathy? Or was there something more to this conversation? "I know you were fired for treating me with respect, for doing your job properly," Daniel said. His words were direct, but there was a sense of empathy in them. "I want to make you an offer, and I don't make it lightly. You've shown more integrity in the last 3 years than some people show in their entire careers. That's exactly the kind of person I need to run my restaurant." Sophia's breath hitched. What did he mean? Was this some kind of joke? Was she dreaming? "You've been offered a chance to make this diner your own, to run it the way it should be run," Daniel explained. "I'm offering you the position of manager." Sophia was stunned. The offer seemed too good to be true. She had just been fired from the very place where she had spent years working. And now, here was a man who was offering her a chance to take control, to become the one who could change everything. She didn't know what to say. She felt a rush of emotions. Surprise, disbelief, hope, and excitement, all mingled into one overwhelming sensation. This was more than just a job offer. It was a chance to right the wrongs she had witnessed in the diner, to bring about the changes she had always wanted to see but had never dared to fight for. The decision, a leap of faith. Sophia sat in her car, staring at the phone. She felt a flood of conflicting emotions wash over her. Was she ready for this? Could she really step into the role of manager and bring about the change she had always dreamed of? She had always believed in doing the right thing, but this was a whole new challenge. This wasn't just about standing up for herself anymore. It was about leading a team, making hard decisions, and turning the entire culture of the diner on its head. Sophia took a deep breath, her mind racing. She knew this was her chance. Her chance to make things right, not just for herself, but for everyone else who had been ignored, undervalued, and treated unfairly at Sunrise Diner. She couldn't let this opportunity slip away. "I'll do it," she said, her voice steadier now than it had been all night. "But on one condition." Daniel's voice softened. "What's that?" "I want full authority to run things my way with no interference," she replied, feeling the confidence rising within her. This was her moment. There was no going back now. Daniel's response was immediate. "That's exactly what I was hoping you'd say." And just like that, Sophia's life had changed. She wasn't just a waitress anymore. She wasn't just someone who had been discarded for standing up for what was right. She was about to become the new manager of Sunrise Diner. The very place that had tried to break her was now going to be the place where she could bring about the change she had always dreamed of. The next day, returning with power. The next morning, Sophia walked back into Sunrise Diner with a sense of purpose she had never had before. The smell of coffee and the clink of silverware filled the air. But this time, it felt different. The diner's usual rushed, chaotic atmosphere was replaced by something else. Anticipation. Emma was the first to notice her. She froze when she saw Sophia enter, narrowing her eyes in disbelief. Alex too seemed shocked. Their usual smug attitudes had been replaced by something else, uncertainty. It wasn't just a regular shift anymore. This time, Sophia wasn't just a waitress. She was in charge. When Mark stepped out of his office and saw Sophia, his expression shifted. He had been expecting her to walk out in defeat, but instead he saw her standing tall, in charge, and his frustration was immediate. He opened his mouth, but before he could speak, the voice of Daniel Carter rang out from behind Sophia. "I believe I can clarify this," Daniel said, stepping forward. His presence filled the room with authority. "As of this morning, Sunrise Diner has undergone some management changes. Effective immediately, Mark, your position is terminated." Sophia felt a surge of empowerment as she watched Mark's face flush with anger and humiliation. The man who had discarded her, who had tried to break her, was now standing in front of her, defeated. Sophia turned to Emma and Alex, who were standing frozen in place, their eyes wide with shock. "Well," she said with a slight smile, "this is awkward." The rest of the staff watched as Sophia, with the support of Daniel, took control of the situation. No longer the silent observer, she had become the force of change. The unspoken rules about who deserved good service were gone. The toxic culture of favoritism had no place in this new environment. The rise of a new leader. Over the next few weeks, Sophia faced resistance, as was to be expected. Emma and Alex, who had thrived under the old, corrupt system, weren't thrilled with the changes. But Sophia didn't back down. She didn't let the frustration or the anger from her coworkers deter her. She knew that real change takes time, and she was willing to put in the effort to rebuild the diner into something that would respect everyone who walked through its doors. She began by observing her staff, identifying those who genuinely wanted to work and those who resisted change. She quickly learned who had been holding the diner back and who had the potential to rise with her. Every decision she made was one step closer to the culture of respect and fairness she had always wanted. And so, Sophia's journey didn't end with her promotion. It was just the beginning of a larger transformation. She had faced down unfairness, intimidation, and bullying in a place where those things had been accepted for far too long. Now, she was the one in control, and it was up to her to ensure that the Sunrise Diner would become a place where hard work, kindness, and respect were the foundations of success. As the weeks passed, the diner's atmosphere gradually shifted, and so did the hearts of those who worked there. Sophia had stepped into her role as manager with a resolve that none of her coworkers had expected. And as the days went on, they began to see the fruits of her leadership. It wasn't always easy. Change never is. There were moments of frustration, resistance, and anger, especially from Emma and Alex, who were still adjusting to their new reality. But Sophia remained steadfast. She wasn't just managing a diner. She was transforming a culture. In many ways, this was her ultimate test, one that would define her not just as a manager but as a person. She wasn't just trying to prove herself to her colleagues. She was proving to herself that she could lead with integrity, regardless of the challenges. And in doing so, she proved something much bigger. That doing the right thing in a world that often rewards shortcuts and cruelty can lead to lasting, meaningful change. The backlash, resistance from within. It wasn't long before Sophia encountered resistance. Emma, the senior waitress who had been a part of the diner's toxic culture for years, made her displeasure known. Her behavior changed, and she went from being the diner's queen bee to someone who barely spoke to Sophia. Her usual mocking demeanor was replaced with a tight-lipped silence, and it was clear she wasn't happy with the changes Sophia was making. Alex, though quieter about it, wore his frustration on his face. He was used to getting away with doing the bare minimum while other employees, like Sophia, did all the heavy lifting. Now, he found himself held accountable for his actions or lack thereof. The imbalance that had existed for so long was finally being corrected, and the people who had benefited from that imbalance weren't taking kindly to the fact that Sophia was flipping the script. But even with all the opposition from her colleagues, Sophia knew this was a fight worth having. She didn't need to make friends with everyone in the diner. She needed to make things right. The old way of doing business, the favoritism and disrespect, wasn't sustainable. And with every small victory, every act of integrity she upheld, no matter how small, Sophia could feel the weight of the diner's old culture slowly crumbling. Her first major change was to implement clear and transparent staff policies. She created a new system for how employees should treat customers. No more ignoring those who couldn't tip well or giving special treatment to regulars. The rules were simple but revolutionary. Treat everyone with respect, serve with diligence, and work as a team. It was a massive shift, one that left some of the old guard resistant, but Sophia pushed forward, reminding herself that this was about building a legacy. She began to notice that the staff who resisted most were the ones who had been benefiting from the unfair system. But there was something deeper happening in the diner, something that Sophia could feel every time she saw a customer leave with a smile or heard a coworker finally step up to help someone without hesitation. Sophia was teaching them, leading by example, and bit by bit, the old ways were being replaced with something new, something better. The payoff: a united diner and a new beginning. Months passed, and the changes Sophia had implemented began to take root. The diner, once a place of division and inequality, started to feel like a true community. The employees who had once looked at her with skepticism began to respect her. They saw the work she was doing, the effort she was putting into making Sunrise Diner a place where integrity and fairness weren't just ideals. They were actions that shaped the daily experience. Emma, who had once mocked Sophia's desire to change things, gradually softened. She still had her moments, but her attitude shifted. She could see that the diner was better under Sophia's management. Alex, too, began to fall in line. Though it was a rocky start, he eventually came to respect Sophia, acknowledging that the work ethic she expected was a standard they all needed to meet. But the real proof of Sophia's transformation wasn't just in her coworkers. It was in the diner itself. Customers noticed the difference. The once ignored patrons who felt unwelcome due to the biased treatment of certain staff members began coming back. They were treated with respect, and they noticed the positive atmosphere that had replaced the previous tension. Sophia could feel it every day. There was a new sense of pride in the air, not just among the staff, but among the regulars and even new customers. The diner had become a place where people weren't just served, they were valued. And Sophia's leadership was the reason for that. The final test, the ultimate confrontation. One day, a major test of Sophia's leadership arrived. Mark, the former manager who had been fired, returned to the diner. He walked in with an air of superiority, wearing a well-tailored suit and carrying himself like he still owned the place. The staff froze when they saw him, and the tension in the room was palpable. Sophia, who had been overseeing the kitchen, walked out to greet him. She wasn't intimidated. She wasn't the same person she had been when he fired her months ago. The confrontation wasn't about revenge or anger. It was about something much more important, standing firm in her beliefs and showing the diner that the power had truly shifted. "Mark," she said, her voice calm but firm, "I'm not the same person you fired, and this is not the same diner you left behind." Mark sneered. "You think you've changed anything here, Sophia? This place is still the same. It's still my diner." Sophia's gaze didn't waver. "No, it's my diner now, and I'll make sure it's run with respect, fairness, and integrity." The moment was almost cinematic. Mark, standing there in front of the diner he thought he could control, and Sophia, calm, collected, and unfazed. This wasn't about fighting for a position. It was about proving that integrity and hard work were more powerful than fear, manipulation, and pride. Mark's days of controlling the diner with intimidation and favoritism were over. He may have walked in thinking he could reclaim his throne, but what he didn't realize was that the diner had already been taken over by Sophia, by the community she had built, and by the values she had instilled in her staff. Mark left the diner that day with nothing but his pride shattered and his old ways exposed. A new era for Sunrise Diner. With Mark gone for good, the diner entered a new chapter. Sophia, now firmly entrenched as the manager, continued to push the boundaries of what was possible in a workplace. She didn't just want to serve food. She wanted to serve a culture of respect, honesty, and fairness. And her success became evident not just in the diner's improved reputation but in the lives of the people who worked there and the customers who ate there. As the weeks passed, more changes followed. Better pay for the staff, more recognition for hard work, and an environment where everyone was treated equally. Sophia's legacy was no longer just a dream. It was a reality that continued to grow every single day. Conclusion: the true power of integrity. Sophia's journey wasn't easy, but it was worth every step. She didn't just overcome adversity. She transformed her workplace and created an environment where fairness and respect were the foundation of everything. From the moment she stood her ground against a system that tried to break her to the day she became the manager, Sophia proved that true leadership isn't about power. It's about creating positive change in the world around you. Her story is a testament to the fact that when we stay true to ourselves, even in the face of opposition, we have the power to reshape our environment and inspire others to do the same. Integrity is not just a choice. It's a force that can change lives, rebuild communities, and prove that standing up for what's right is always worth the fight. And as for Sunrise Diner, it became more than just a place to eat. It became a place where people could come together, where kindness was the norm, and where leadership was defined by compassion, fairness, and the unwavering belief that everyone deserves respect. If you were inspired by Sophia's incredible journey of courage, integrity, and transformation, don't forget to like this video and share it with your friends. Subscribe to our channel and hit the bell icon so you never miss a story about triumph, second chances, and standing up for what's right. Remember, real leadership is about doing what's right, even when it's hard. So, stand tall, stay true to your values, and make a difference, just like Sophia did. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video. Let's keep spreading these powerful stories of change and hope.